Yo,
What's up, Mason?
it's fantastic. What's up, Adam?
It's going well. We're back with another episode of the Assemblage Beverage podcast. And before we get into what the podcast is about, we've got a little note from our sponsor, aka ourselves again. If you are looking for your new favorite beverage media merchandise, go check out www.assemblagebevco.com for all your super awesome t-shirts, hoodies, wine workshops,
Hats.
hats, jinx, all that good stuff. You can find it all at www.assemblagebevco.com. Make sure you check it out, share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it with everyone you know, and get yourself something fresh for the summer. Or, you know, fall's right around the corner, so get yourself a hoodie. Everything's still 20% off if you use code
Oh,
SUMMER20, and you can get all your new favorite beverage merch right there at www.assemblagebevco.com. And now,
right on.
on to episode 46 of the Assemblage Bevco Beverage Podcast. Jesus. The first glass of champagne or Vouvray is
Uh,
hitting hard, I guess.
you're
And
already enjoying.
yeah, already enjoying it. And today's podcast is a little bit of a lighthearted bitch sesh, if you know what I mean. We are talking about the things that Mason and I notice when we are out to eat, just due to our long time spent in the beverage industry. Um, and we're just gonna kind of talk about the things that really grind our gears, things that we notice, things that chap our ass, all that good stuff. So,
uh,
um, do you want to just jump into the first thing that you notice or that really bothers you when you go out to eat, just due to the time you've spent waiting tables, managing, all that good stuff?
Absolutely. Let's just grind right in. You know what I'm saying? Let's blend it all together.
Yeah.
All right. So, topic number one: the restaurant experience, and then of course there's so many different categories. So let's talk about service, Adam.
Hmm.
Biggest things with service for you. What are they? When you go into a restaurant, you notice, you sit down.
Yeah, really, like for me, it's the mannerisms of the servers, right? Like you can tell right off the bat the servers that are hungover, they don't want to be there. They're shooting the shit in the corner by the POS, and they're just basically screwing around. And like I see it from a mile away, right? Like they think they're being stealthy, they think they can't be seen, but like I can see you, and everyone else can
Yeah,
see you too. It's those little things that, like, honestly, the general public probably doesn't see or notice or care. But like
right.
being a manager and being someone that's done that before as a server, right? Like, oh, no one can see me shooting the shit over here. Like everyone can see you. So
Of
I think that's
course.
kind of like the first thing that I notice is like just standing around, hanging out, not working. Like, where's your side work sheet that you could be filling out right now? Like, I know you got silverware rolls to do, or you got glasses to polish, or you've got something to do, right?
There's always something to do in a restaurant.
Yep.
Always.
I think there's a
So,
saying out there that says if you got time to lean, you got time to clean.
yeah,
Get to cleaning.
100% agree with that. I think with service specifically, that is one of the things that grinds my gears the most, especially as a manager, right? But another thing I think is when it comes to the conversation, the interaction with yourself when they say something that is like so bewildered for me,
Hmm.
like a guest wanting to split a guest or split a check, right? Splitting a check and then knowing how working with so many different systems, how easy it is every time to split it, and then being like, no, I'm okay. I won't
Yeah.
accept this.
Yeah. I mean, I'm right there with you, Mason. Like, believe me, because
There are exceptions. I
there are
agree.
exceptions, and that's where I'm gonna come in, right? Like
Yeah,
if you've got a 10 top and you want to split it 10 ways,
I get it.
get the fuck out of
I
here.
I understand. Throw the card in the center. and everybody Venmo that one person. 100%
Yes.
agree.
Yes.
Right? Like
Venmo, Zelle,
that,
Cash App, those are real things. Use them.
I I agree. But when it comes to like, 2, 3 ways, it's not a big deal.
Right.
Just do it.
Yeah.
It seems like they just want to hold back on doing that, make their lives easier, but really harder.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Like it's some POS they are, and by that, for those of you who don't know what POS stands for, it's point of sales. It's basically a system that you can input orders and it sends it to different stations for the tickets to print out. But some POS like definitely are not as it's not as easy to split checks and do all that stuff. But with a lot of the newer ones like Toast, Square, Breadcrumb, like all of those they're super easy to split.
Oh
And you
yeah.
can even do it by seat number, stuff like that. Now, again, with the large guest count, splitting checks is a pain in the ass, but also, when you're like, oh, me and that person over there want to split this appetizer, and me and this person over there want to split that appetizer, like that's the get the fuck out of here. Like if you like can't
Yep.
just like splitting individual items,
I agree. Yeah,
I
that's too much.
yeah, that's too much. But like I think that there's definitely a middle ground, and some servers go above and beyond. And I don't know if I preface this at the beginning, but this is more of like a comedy podcast, or like we're not just sitting here and griping about stuff. Like we're just trying to be relatable for people who are in the industry, right? And like they see these things every day. And maybe for those of you who've never been in the industry, maybe it's a good way to look yourself in the mirror and be like, I'm one of these people that make server's life living hell, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of a dual purpose podcast. Not so much informational, but I guess it is still informational
Yeah. It's,
in
more
a
on the
different way.
social status when you
Yeah.
go to a restaurant. Like what should you be doing, or what do people notice
Hmm.
when you're on one side or the other, and how annoying it is?
Yeah. And next, like, food, as far as like things that we notice, what's one thing that you notice about food when you're sitting down to eat at a restaurant?
Yeah. So like one big thing is just like, how is it prepared, right? If it says one thing on the menu and then I get it a completely different way,
Hmm.
that in which is one way I'm like, yo, well, like this doesn't make sense. There was a disconnect with the person who created the menu versus the person who's actually serving the menu, and that is where like I can get a little frustrated with the food when I go to a restaurant. Another big one, which I think is speed.
Hmm.
You know, speed of how service flows and food coming out, right? When it's something that doesn't take very long, and it takes 2 to 3 times that amount of time, then you go, why did it take so long? Now, granted, there are a lot of other factors, like is it 6:30 on a Friday and
Hmm.
there's every table filled in the restaurant and it's slammed out the door and you hear the ticket machine going like crazy, right? All of these things that could add so much to your time, in which you go, you know what? I'm okay waiting 45 minutes for that one item. I expected this.
Right.
But when it's slow, then you're on the opposite end. Like, why is it taking so long? You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah, no, I completely get that, and I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. Like we kind of have, in one sense, sympathy. Like if they're short staffed, like you can tell people are really hustling, they're doing their best, and things take a while, right? Like stuff happens. Maybe they forgot about your mozzarella sticks in the fryer and they exploded and they burned and they had to remake them, right? Like shit happens. People forget to set
Yeah.
timers. People get busy doing other things. Like you know, I get it. But when it's not busy and you see everyone standing at the POS, shooting the shit, hanging out, doing nothing, and your food's dying in the pass. I mean, that's the tough thing to watch, right? Like, there's 3 tables in here. Why are my mozzarella sticks taking that long to cook? I guess
Right.
the theme of this podcast is mozzarella sticks now. Like last week it was about fries, now it's about mozzarella sticks. So we're just
Well,
going through the frozen
that cheesy
appetizer
creaminess.
with some marinara sauce. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I wonder what next week's frozen appetizer is going to be. We'll find out.
Yeah,
Join
yeah.
us next week.
Maybe we should start a secondary podcast of like assemblage of frozen apps. You know, the frozen app podcast. That'd be
We'll
pretty
just
cool.
start judging all frozen apps from here on out.
Yeah, that could be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think kind of, to go along with the food, thinking about the drink and the beverage side of it, obviously, because we are a beverage podcast and we both have spent a lot of time in the beverage world. I think there's certain times where I feel a little bit bad because I'm a little bit critical of wine lists and cocktail lists because I've helped create a good amount of beverage lists and cocktail lists. And I get it. Like, I really only judge, like, I'm never going to go into a sports bar and be like, ugh, their wine list sucks, right? Because I know they don't sell wine. Like, it's
Right.
just, they
Or they
have
have one or
wine.
two.
Yeah, they have wine to appease the masses, but like they have basically grocery store wine on their list. Like if I were going to a sports bar, like I'm never going to order wine, so like I don't really care. But when you go to a place that has a good food menu, it's maybe not fine dining, but it has some nicer food options. And like their nicest bottle of wine is like $50 a bottle on the
And it's
list.
like
And it's
Andre.
like Andre, or it's like, Yellowtail, or like some New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc that you can find at the grocery store. Like that's when I'm like, okay, I can tell one of two things. Whoever's building the list doesn't know anything about wine, which is fine. Or the second thing is whoever built the list is probably also the rep, and they're just putting the things on the list that they make the most commission on. And that's how they're doing things, right? And maybe I'm just being an asshole because I might be an
I
asshole,
don't
but
know.
like it really doesn't take that much knowledge or that much skill to
Effort.
make or effort to make a halfway decent wine list or a cocktail list. Like there's
I
Google.
100%.
There's If you don't know, Google it, right? Like what do I need to build a right wine list? Like, or worst case scenario, hire our consulting company and we'll make the wine list for you. Like we're pretty inexpensive, right? Like we've done
We
that
got you.
before. We've got you. Like we just want to see better wine lists out there. So we'll cut you a deal. We'll cut you a fat deal to help build your wine list. So yeah,
And
if you want
all
to
at the
do
cost
that,
that you want.
yep. Yeah, I mean, fully customizable. If you want to do that, go to www.assemblagebevco.com and send us a message, and we will definitely respond. But yeah, I mean, like, it's kind of sad, and I wish I didn't think about that all the time. But like, and I catch myself doing it all the time. Again, maybe it's because I'm an asshole, but like, we'll be out to dinner and I'll be like, God, this wine list fucking sucks. Like it's like they didn't even try. It's like they went down the aisle in Kroger and just was like, yep, mm-hmm, 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 and then put it on the
Sounds
list.
good.
Like it doesn't make any sense. I was at a restaurant this weekend and they had a wine on their menu that was labeled Red Merlot. That's all it said.
That's it.
And I was like,
Wow.
versus white Merlot? And then, but they also had
Versus.
4 different flavors of Moscato.
Mm.
So yeah, that
You
was
know
tough.
what sells? What sells? That's the flip side right there, though. Like if you're making a fuck ton of money as the restaurateur, selling this item because it fits your things, your idea so well, your restaurant concept so well, man, it's just like for us in the industry, it's like, fuck. But I get
Yeah.
it. I get it. I want to
Yeah.
make that money. I understand. But, I don't know. I think giving a little effort, asking your rep to bring you a couple of wines to taste, giving it a shot is the way to go. Like,
Mm-hmm.
hire us. That's okay. We'll make it work.
Yeah, we'll help you build your wine list. We don't even have to like pick crazy wines. There's great wines at affordable prices. So if you want to keep your wine list costs down, we got you on that too. Again, www.assemblagebevco.com. And you can send us a message and we will help you out make your man, this is just full ad reads. Now I know
uh,
like when I listen to some podcasts and they do
it
like
just
three or
happens.
four ad reads in a row, I'm like, God damn it, just shut the fuck up and talk about what you're talking about today. We're turning
Right?
into that
Yeah.
podcast, but we're not being paid for these ad reads. So
Damn.
yeah,
Oh,
that's all right.
maybe soon.
Now
All
I
right.
know.
So, like, servers, right? Their knowledge,
Mm-hmm,
specifically with drinks. I think that is one of the most frustrating things for me as a guest
mm,
or as a leader within the restaurant, right? Like, how do you not know a couple of your products, right? You go out and you ask, like, what do you have? What is good, right? And
mm-hmm.
they give you the most bland and both boring things you ever could think of. Like, I've got Bud Light. Okay, is that it for you?
Is that the only beer you
Mm,
got?
that's it. You don't remember a single other one. Like, what's happening, right? Like, let's have a conversation. Let's talk about it. I would like to hear what you have to say because that's also a way that I judge whether you actually know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, am I going to take your recommendation?
Right.
Do you know how to make a Boulevardier?
That's another big one, right? Like when especially if it's like a very classic cocktail, right? And I want to go back to like the servers not being trained properly and like knowing what spirits they have or a couple of them, right? Like I know some restaurants have huge spirit programs and like you might not know every single one. But like if you ask like, "Hey, what gins do you have?" and you can't even name one gin, like
Just get the fuck out. I'm sorry.
really?
Yeah, come on.
Like I mean that's super frustrating, especially like as a guest. Like you're just trying to figure out what you're going to order and like a lot of these restaurants don't publish their spirits lists before you go or on their menu. They don't have a spirits list. So it's like if you just want a tequila tonic, hey, what tequilas do you have? I don't know. Let me go check. Like, I'm not asking for a fuller report. I'd be happy with knowing three tequilas you have, and I'll pick from the first three you say, no matter what they
Right.
are. Like, even if it's, I got 1942, Clase Azul, and Casamigos, like, all right, cool, I'll pick from one of those three. Like, just, I get it. I don't want you to name everything, but, like, at least tell me something. But, on the flip side, those like really classic cocktails and they somehow screw them up,
Yeah.
that's tough.
It's it is very tough.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's just like frustrating because like certain drinks like the Negroni and the Boulevardier equal parts every time. So
Mm-hmm.
to fuck that up is to like really not be paying attention to what you're doing. Like even if, right, you're free pouring, right? You go 1, 2, 3. Okay, then same bottle. 1, 2, 3. Same bottle. 1, 2, 3. Come on, make it happen.
Right.
Like just do it exactly the same every time, and you're not gonna fuck it up.
That's
And I
true.
just don't understand.
Yeah.
And I just want to go back real quick to that like when you're listing 3 items, right? Great tip for the servers, right? Give them one that's low end, one that's on the middle shelf, and one that's the top end. Most likely everybody's gonna go for the middle shelf, but you know, you'll still have those ballers that want to spend top dollar and the ones that don't really want to spend it all. And you want to give everybody the option. You want to be on their side.
Yeah, and maybe just know like what a pour of it costs, right? So you can say our well is blank, but for a couple dollars more, you can get blank, which I really like because it's blank. Or if you really want to, impress your date, we've got blank. And you've given them three options, and you've kind of put the choices in their hand. If they go, I don't really like any of those any of those choices. What else do you have? Maybe no five total, and maybe your restaurant only has three, depending on what the spirit is. Like just knowing a couple, so you don't look like you have no clue what's going on, is super helpful, and it'll help you get higher tips. Like, I mean, I was at a
Yeah.
restaurant last night, and the server couldn't even name a gin. And then, because my friends were getting gin and lemonades, and then I was like, "Oh, what tequilas do you have?" And she's like, "Oh, we have Hendrix, we have Bombay Sapphire, we have." And I was like, "No, tequila, not gin." And she's like, "Oh, I don't know. Let me go check." And I was like, "Oh my god."
So not only did she not know what gin she had, but then when she described her tequilas, they were her gin.
Right. And then I was like, okay, like maybe she just had a brain fart, right? Or maybe she didn't hear me, but like this girl, like she just had, and I felt so bad because like, but she just had no clue. It was really tough to watch, and of course I was
Yeah.
there with like three of my industry friends who know, so they're just like, holy shit, what the fuck? And they're kind of being jerks, and I
Uh,
was like, guys, like really, like
let's be nice.
she's struggling, and we all know that. We don't have to rub it in her face. So I think that's also important too, is like these are things that bother us, but I'm a giant fucking pansy in restaurants. Like I will never bitch about anything, right? And
Right.
I'll
Just gonna
never write a bad
notice.
review. I'm just gonna it's gonna be content for the podcast, and that's
It's
all
just
it's
gonna be
gonna be,
noticed
right?
and given. Yeah.
Yep, yep,
Shared within the group, kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah. Or content for the podcast, which I'm guessing my server last night does not listen to our podcast. So like, it is
You're
what it
right.
is.
Not now.
And if she does,
They
maybe
better.
study up on some tequila and some gin.
When she listens to it, a couple years down the road, 5 years down the road, when we're at the top of the game,
Hmm.
then she'll be like, "That was me.
Yeah,
I know. I remember his face."
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
And I
all
think
right.
too, kind of like the next sort of topic is like how servers interact with guests,
Yeah,
and verbiage is everything. Like, what's one thing that really kind of you notice, Mason, that kind of gets under your skin when a server says it to someone?
yeah. The biggest one for me is when you're out with your significant other or a group, whether it's male and female, and or any other that you feel like you are in this world, 2023, is when somebody goes up and goes, "How's it going, guys?" I'm
Mm,
like, mm, "This is not guys. This is people. This is we. This is all. This is y'all. This is something like along those lines. Something a little
yeah.
bit more general facing. Like that one specific hello is one of the ones that bugs me the most.
Yeah, I'm a big y'all guy, and now I can get away with it being in the South. But like,
It's nice,
how's it
right?
going, y'all? Or how are y'all doing? Like,
Right.
it may not be formal, but it's all inclusive. You don't have to worry about pronouns. You don't have to worry about who you're serving, right? Like, y'all is an all encompassing thing. And like, if you're not in the South, it sounds weird. But even when I had our restaurant, which was just outside of Chicago, like I said y'all all the time because it was just easier than being like, I've got to see who I'm serving and then make that call of how I'm going to introduce myself. Like, instead, you could just be like, good evening, y'all. My name's Adam. I'm going to be taking care of you. And, have you been here before? Blah, blah, blah. Whatever your spiel is. Instead of being, howdy, guys. Like, it's not professional, and you're gonna offend someone, like as unfortunate as that is, like you are, and it's also just not professional. So
Yeah.
but some people would probably say what I've just said, how are y'all doing, is not professional. So it's all in the eye of the beholder, I guess. But To
Also,
me,
like the level of industry you're
yeah,
at, like
yeah,
fine dining versus casual.
right. If you're at a 3 Michelin star restaurant, y'all is probably not the way to go. But like how are
Is everybody doing?
how is everybody doing, or good evening, ladies and gentlemen, whatever it is. There's different levels of it. Pick something that works. Just don't say good evening, ladies and gentlemen, when there's all guys at the table or all females at the table, because then you're in hot water still. So
Uh,
you know it's
it
it's a weird topic now in 2023, because there's a lot of stuff going on, and
yeah,
I'm all for it, but like I don't know. I get to a point where I'm like, what can you say? And are we going to
true,
be canceled even for having this conversation?
maybe,
Or
but
am I going
also
to be
when
canceled for thinking that we're going to get canceled for having this conversation? I don't know.
it's possible, it's very possible. But
Yeah.
then on the flip side, as the guest, like don't be if like it's an honest god mistake, like don't be so harsh on the server, right?
Hmm.
Like if you are a guy that dresses like a girl and or a girl that dresses like a guy and they accidentally make the mistake of saying dude or what's up sir madam whatever it may be, don't just brush it off. Sorry, as long as you correct them and they're okay with that moving forward, you're good.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Things happen.
That's why you can never go wrong with y'all.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Especially if you're
Very
in the
true.
South.
All right, should we talk about something that's like so detrimental to your health and you don't even realize it when you're in the industry and you're just always working those late night grinds in that dark dimly lit restaurant?
Hmm.
Yep,
We
that's
don't
the
see the
sunlight.
sun. Yeah.
Never.
We don't see the
Look at
sun.
this.
Well,
Look at this.
okay. I mean,
All
you've
right,
got you've
right.
got a slight cookie tan going on because you were on
That's
vacation last week. Like you've got a slight beach tan.
You're right. You're right.
You're
I
looking
also been
like
working in the yard a lot
yeah,
recently, so
yeah.
like you're right. You're right. I've been benefiting. In
Whereas
my
like
current restaurant, I have that indoor outdoor, so I do have a little bit of excess right there.
yeah, which is like if you're watching the video and you can see my neckline, it's like glow in the dark white. Like it's almost gray. Like it's sad because my office
Edward.
yeah, like my office at my day job, I sit like basically in the middle of the building. So there's no windows. I have like one lamp on my desk. We don't use the overhead lighting because it's too harsh. And like so my skin is just like naturally white. I got a little bit red yesterday. I played some golf yesterday morning or yesterday afternoon. So I got a little sun, but like I put sunscreen on so like you can see. I mean, that's just horrifying. If you're watching the video and like you can see my
My
neckline,
eyes.
it's like white. Yeah.
You're shining like a vampire in the
Yeah.
sunlight.
Yeah. It's
Oh.
I work with people and they all call me Blanco at work. Like a lot of the kitchen staff, they're all like they're from Venezuela or Mexico or Colombia, and they're all like, "Oh, Blanco," and I'm like, "Oh, Jesus, that's tough."
Uh,
I get it,
yeah.
but it's tough. But yeah, I mean, we just I feel like especially if you work in more fine dining restaurants too, they're only open at night. You're probably going to work at like 3 or 4 in the evening, very dimly lit, and kind of that time before work, you're not really outside because you're sleeping because you work till probably 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. So, or
And
you're
then you
out
stayed
partying
out
till,
partying
yeah, exactly.
4 or 5 in the morning.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, you just don't see the sunlight. And I think that's kind of it just kind of is what it is, unfortunately.
Yeah, totally. I think it's very annoying and frustrating for you know the employee that has to suffer through that
Hmm.
and just not have that vitamin D coming down from that sun. It's
Yep.
just something that's missed, I think. And you or I, when we're out to eat, I definitely notice those servers that definitely haven't hit the sun in a really long time.
Yeah, they're looking a
or
little. They're
or they
looking a little
have,
pasty. Yeah, they're looking a little pasty.
or they just got back and they're bright red, and you're like,
Hmm.
ooh. you got hit hard with this like last little trip.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Uh,
I think too, like another thing that kind of is an industry thing that I've still haven't gotten over is like just the speed of which you eat.
oh my gosh, I'm so bad at that. I cannot stop. It's bad.
Yeah, and I think the first thing that I kind of want to like say is, again, going back to like seeing the servers standing at side stations thinking that no one can see them. The same thing goes for people who are eating during their shift, like, and they come and stand by the bar and they're shooting the shit with the bartender and they're eating. Like, maybe don't do that. Go sit in the walk-in, go sit in the back. Maybe there's an employee break room. Like, do it in some place that's not in the sight of a guest. Like, don't sit at the bar, all that kind of stuff. Like, also it
Yeah.
depends on the type of restaurant too, right? Like, if it's a sports bar, you cut them more slack. If it's something that's more of an occasion spot,
Hmm.
it doesn't look great.
Yeah.
Um, but kind of on the other end of it, like being in that server, that bartender's shoes, like that meal period, you don't have long to eat. And typically you're eating out of like, you don't even get a plate.
Yeah.
Like,
Bare hands, quart container,
quart container.
quart container.
Yeah,
That's
that
the big
hits.
one. Mm.
That hit. Yeah, and I think to me, like the one thing that really in the deli container talk, the one thing that really kind of hit me was in the second season of The Bear, which is a phenomenal show. For
Yeah.
those of you who have not seen it, like for those of you who are not in the industry, now you get what we go through. For those of you who are in the industry, I'm sorry you had to go through that because there was definitely some PTSD moments.
Oh yeah.
Like
Some bad ones.
yeah, some real and there's some points where I felt sick to my stomach, but I also felt like I need to go into work tomorrow and I need to be the best fucking employee that they've ever seen. Right? Like it has a weird mindset. And I think, and I'm sure you can relate to this too, because you've worked at some really great restaurants and places. But there is that definitely like drink the Kool-Aid moment. And the Forks episode of the second season where they are freaking out over a smudge,
The smudge.
this
Who
the
smudged it?
smudge, and
Who
like
did that?
it's definitely like that. Like there's definitely moments where everyone freaks the fuck out about something that is so minute, but at the same time I get it because your guests are paying a crazy amount of money, and
Yeah.
maybe there are people like in that episode, like there's two teachers that came into the restaurant and they ate, and they're like, we're comping the whole thing, don't drop a check. They've saved up for a year to eat here and they're finally eating here, like we're not charging them for it. Like that's the kind of shit that I
Gives
love.
me
Yeah, it
chills.
gives me chills. And like, it's the type of thing, like when you work in a place like that, you hope that you can give that experience to people who maybe don't have the means to do it, or they're like, they're dropping a whole paycheck on this dinner. Like, it feels great to be able to give that. And I think, the producers of that show, and I think Maddie Matheson is one of the producers. And it's funny because he's an actual chef, right? Like, he has a YouTube page. He's been in the industry a long time, and he plays Fack in that show, who's like the
Technician,
handyman.
repairman.
Yeah, he's like the handyman. He's the one chef in that show. So it's kind of funny, like they really hit the ball on the nail on the head in that show, and like how like true it is. And sometimes I
Yeah.
feel like when you think they're overplaying something, I think sometimes they're downplaying stuff too, right? Like
Yeah.
the whole
Honestly, I didn't.
the whole where
Yeah.
they're like rubbing their chest with the fist to like, okay, like I'm sorry. Like that doesn't happen. Very very rarely does that happen. Like usually people just freak the fuck out on everyone. Like, I love that. I think that's great, and I feel like that should be something that's used because I think it would save a lot of jobs and it would save a lot of like frustration. But I mean, that show is fantastic, but it definitely like shows, it's true. You drink out of deli containers, you eat out of deli containers.
Yeah,
Delis are
I
everything.
think. Yeah, I really think that one keyword right there. I agree. I don't think that has ever really been utilized, but I think that'll also alluded to like the restaurant lingo or industry of
Hmm.
things that guests don't notice behind the scenes that servers do to make things happen really, really soigné
Right.
like hold like for at the or at other restaurants holding your hand up to your chest or touching your chest meaning I need help, or
Yep.
holding something behind your back means please come grab it, right? Like you can swoop it on the way while you're way over so that your interaction with the guest is never interrupted, and it's like even more of a flowing service, and it's just like what a beautiful service, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and I completely agree with you. Like there's definitely those. I remember, I worked at a place like if you needed someone's attention, you put your hand on your shoulder like this, or like before you start talking to someone else, can you listen? It's just like instead of just going up to someone being like, "Hey, blah 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 blah," saying, "Hey, can you listen?" And sometimes, no, I'm sorry, I can't, right? I've got too much going on. Because sometimes if you start just bombarding your coworker with a bunch of questions and they're focusing on pushing out a ticket or making a drink or trying to remember all the things at the bar that were just ordered and they didn't have time to write it down, and you just bombarding them with a question can throw off their whole rhythm.
Right,
Rather than you saying, Mason, can you listen? No, I can't right now. Come back in a few minutes. Okay, cool.
right.
Right?
Or if like you're going to that manager, right, who's probably dealing with like maybe a major guest issue or whatever a major guest issue is, and just you're like, never mind, I can't get your help.
Yeah.
I think that like one little aspect of asking for help or asking if you can you listen? I love that.
Hmm.
Are you ready?
Yeah, exactly. And I think the other thing too with like eating too fast and just like the eating while you're in the industry is working those late nights and going to a bar, eating super late at night. And I'm sorry, but like if you eat a salad after a long shift at a bar, like I don't trust you.
Uh,
Like the things you should be ordering: chicken tenders and fries, a burger, chicken nuggets,
Slice of
wings,
pizza.
pizza,
Yeah.
whatever, tater tots, which we didn't mention last week when we were talking about fries.
Oh, tater
Tater
tots.
tots. But like
Mm.
there's a lot of things that you kind of get into like a really unhealthy eating habit,
Yeah,
which I'm all for because I love to eat like that, but it's also
but at
really
the same,
bad.
yeah, you got to figure out a way to counterbalance it and make it happen so that you're doing things to really set yourself up for success as a person that always works in the evening in the restaurant business.
Hmm. Yep, but I get it because
Now
sometimes you can't always like pack snacks, or like your dinner time is not when everyone else's dinner time is. It's either at four
that's when
o'clock
you're
when you're having
serving.
staff meal, or it's at 1 o'clock in the morning after your shift. Like
Yeah,
it just is what it is.
yeah. Speaking of that, like when you're not having your dinner, you're serving everybody else. I feel like that's the busiest time, right? And when you go out to eat, I don't know about you, but when I'm sitting there enjoying my time, watching everything happen, really getting to the point where I'm just seeing the servers mess up on drinks or do a really great job, have these beautiful conversations with us and other guests, and or not, and you're just like continuously watching it. And sometimes you're watching the restaurant go down in flames, or they're succeeding, right?
Yep.
But when they're going down in flames, like I don't know about you, but I get that need to help,
Yep.
to like let me jump in, let me clear my table, let me stack my plates together to make it a little bit smoother, let me do something in which I can really make sure the server is more set up for success.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like, just kind of being real nonchalant too. Like if you just being that super low maintenance guest, even though you might need something, they've already got a lot going on. You know what they're going through. You've been in their shoes before. Like, hey, if they come up and apologize, like, hey, don't worry about it. I get it. I'm in the industry, blah blah blah. Like, not in a flaunting way, but just like, hey, go focus on your other tables. I'm not going to sit here and write you a shitty review. I'm still going to tip you over 20%, right? Like, don't worry about me. Like, don't forget about me. But if you've got more pressing issues, go solve those, because I'm going to be more understanding than Karen over there, and she's going to rip you a new asshole on Yelp or whatever. I'm not going to do that, right?
For your
For
tomato being on the left side of the salad instead on the right side of the salad.
Yeah, I mean, just fuck off, Karen. But and if you're a nice person named Karen, I'm
Uh,
sorry that you were named that, and I'm sorry that your name is now a meme. But
yeah,
like, it's not that serious. At the end
yeah.
of the
It's
day,
just food.
it's French fries and hot dogs. Just simmer down, people. And I get it.
Yeah,
Like, we're bitching about stuff, but like, we also are super understanding at the same time. Like, we're going to be the most critical, but we're also, when we see someone going down, we're going to definitely feel bad for them, and we're not going to make their life even harder than it has to be, right? So
yep,
it's kind of a balance. And I definitely have felt that feeling that you said, like, feeling the need to get up and help. Like, fuck, can I go clear that table? Like, if I know where the dish pit is, like, I can definitely bust that table. I can definitely do that. Like, oh, the bartender's in the weeds. Like, I can go at
I
least
can go back
I can
there
go pour their wine, right? Like,
for the
I
beer.
don't want to mix up their flow with the cocktails, but like, even having someone to pour wine and grab beers out of the cooler is a huge help when you're in the shits, right? Because you're at least clearing tickets off the pass. So yeah, I've definitely felt that. And
Well,
I think kind of one of the most triggering things to me, and something that still lives up here rent free, is
and I think here
in
always.
here is hearing the goddamn ticket machine, that chirping son of a
Ding,
bitch,
ding, ding, ding,
just
ding,
chirping away
ding, ding.
tickets when you're already in the shits, and more in those goddamn server, like, especially when you're a bartender or a
Uh,
chef or a cook, and you hear that chirping when you are already in the shits, whether it's a fire ticket or whether it's a new order or whether it's a void, you're like, god damn it. And like, I still hear that, even though it's been, a good while since I've been in a position where that chirping really bothers me. Because, again, like, I've been in management a while. Like, I've been kind of out of that. Like, it directly affects me, right? I mean, it does
yeah,
directly affect me, because if my servers aren't performing well, or the cooks aren't performing well, or the dishwasher's not performing well, it all goes to shit. But like,
yep,
the chirping of the ticket machine still, it's
still
still
gives
like,
you
I can still
anxiety.
hear it even through
Yep,
these soundproof headphones. I can still hear it.
yeah. No, I always feel it, and like I really think that the flip side of the coin of now being on the management side, in which it's like not truly affecting you, but it is, of course, 'cause it's your thing to manage your restaurant, your thing to worry about. It's like I don't know if you feel as much anxiety as you did when you were the one 15 tickets deep with the 20 more rolling in, and you're like. Now it's more like watching over and making sure things are going smoother and paying attention, making sure you can help direct, give them the idea to do better next time.
Yeah, and I
But
mean,
it's like,
when you're in the shits though, and that ticket machine's chirping, like, it's been a while, but I remember getting that feeling of like, okay, any wrong movement will cost me 2 seconds, which will result in a slower ticket time. Like,
will result in 10 minutes down the line.
yeah, I mean,
It's
and
like
and
that
that's
quick.
that's the same thing, like, with this last season of The Bear, when Carmi's going around, and like, he doesn't even have a kitchen, and it's just like tape on the floor, and he's going this station, this station, this station, this station, and he's like, 7 seconds. It's too slow. It needs to be 5 seconds or whatever it was. Like, it is
Yeah,
crazy. 2 seconds doesn't seem like that long, but 2 seconds over and over again,
is a lot.
it's a long time, and like it can make or break the whole restaurant. Unfortunately, like as crazy as that sounds, it make or break the entire restaurant.
Yeah. You know what that kind of brings me to in terms of timing is, my time specifically with Taco Bell and working for that fast food restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
Man, is it all about timing? Like, speaking of 2 seconds, speaking of 30 seconds, time yourself. See what you can get done in 30 seconds. 30 seconds is a long time when you're in the zone and you're making it happen.
Yeah,
You can do a lot.
yeah.
It's crazy.
When you're dialed in, 30 seconds feels like 45 seconds.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
but 15
ridiculous.
seconds is a long time.
Yeah.
Fifth,
Or, it feels like minutes, honestly. It really does.
yeah,
You're like in it to win it. You're like, whoa, I did that. Shit.
yeah.
Right on. Well, should we wrap this baby up?
Yeah, I mean, I could talk about things that really, are living rent free in my head
Grind
about,
my
yeah,
gears.
grinding my gears, chapping my ass. I could
Uh,
talk about all the things that live rent free in my head being in this industry, but yeah, I mean, podcast would probably be fucking 3 hours long.
hours.
Yeah, it would be
Hours long.
hours. But yeah,
Endless.
I think it's time to wrap it up with our question of the day. Mason, what is your question of the day?
The question of the day is, what is one thing you notice every time you go out to eat? What is your one thing that's just like, no matter where it is, that's what I see first?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's the beverage list, right? Like I've been a bev director, I've been a som, like I've been a bartender. Like I notice that before anything. Like when I go to a restaurant, before I even look at the menu, I'm looking at the beverage list and the wine list. Like, okay, what am I drinking tonight? Maybe that's a problem. Maybe that makes me an alcoholic, but like for me, I just even if okay, I was gonna say even if I'm not drinking that night, which was just an absolute lie. Like maybe I'm not looking for a glass of wine that night, but I'm still looking at the beverage list or the wine list.
Yeah,
Like I still want to know what they have, right? Because maybe next time, okay, cool. I saw a bottle that I really want for a date night or a special occasion or whatever it may be. So beverage list is definitely something that I notice every time I go out, no
I
matter
love
what
it.
restaurant. What about you, Mason?
Yeah. For me, it is always the first couple of interactions with the restaurant people. That is the biggest thing that pops out every time I go out. It's something like, sometimes you blow off when you walk into the restaurant, you don't notice what the maitre d' or the host is doing or saying to you as you go to your table or as you walk in. Is anybody paying attention to you as you're walking in? Are they saying hello? Those are the things that like stand out to me the most is how am I greeted? What are they saying to me?
Hmm.
What is the conversation starting? And like that kind of sets the tone for me on what is the thing I'm going to notice the most.
Yeah, very well
Yeah.
said.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And yours was too.
I mean,
Well,
it's those subtle things. It's the things that we notice when we go out to eat and when we're dining, because we don't go out all that much. I go out a little bit more now that I'm not in actively working in restaurants. Well, I don't know. It's weird because I go out to eat a little bit more, but I don't go out to like bars and stuff as much as I used to. So it's a weird kind of shift.
transition.
But still things I think even 40 years from now, I think there's still things that I'll notice when I go out to eat, and I think the beverage list will always be that thing,
You're number one.
right? Like it's something like put the beverage podcast aside, it's just something that's in my soul, right? Like I love beverage, I love wine. And so yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, there's certain things that will always live rent free in my mind, thanks to just being in the industry for so long. And that Bev list is always something that's up here and down here. Mason, you got anything else?
Nah. The only thing you know what to do is go to our website,
Bevco.
.com, and you go buy all that beautiful merch, shirts, hats, sweaters, hoodies. I don't know. We're trying to still work on a few other things, but you know you want it. I want it too. I want more of it. I'm going to get more of it this year. Let's go. What else should we do, Adam?
Yeah, I think everyone needs to do us a huge favor and smash that motherfucking subscribe button wherever you listen. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, all that stuff. We appreciate all the support that we've gotten over the last little bit. You know, without you guys and your views, we wouldn't keep doing this, although we probably would keep doing this because, you know, as I've always said with Assemblage, like the connections, and now at this point, like having Mason as the co-host, just that weekly or bi-weekly conversation that I get to have with Mason makes all the difference in the world.
Oh yeah,
you know,
agreed.
I feel like we're almost back in college with how much we talk and we text and all that stuff, which we didn't have for a long time. So, you know, whether or not you listen to the podcast, we're going to keep going because it's at least good for my mental health, which is questionable at most times. So, you know, like
never. I'm never worried.
Yeah, no, you're never worried. I'm always worried. But, you know, that's a topic for another. I think we already did that podcast. Actually, we already did that podcast. What was that? It was our first, the mental health. Yeah, it was our first podcast of 2023.
You got to get that start off right. Get that mental brain in the right capacity.
Check out that podcast. Don't remember what number it was. Don't remember what it was called, but check it out. First podcast of 2023.
Maybe.
I don't think it was 25 because our first podcast together was 24. Well, our first podcast together was 23. That was pre you being a co-host, and then 24 was how the fuck do we get here? And then we're on 46 now, so we've already done 23 podcasts together, which is crazy. So Assemblage has been around for almost 3 years, and we've had 46 podcasts. And Mason, you've now officially been part of half the podcasts, which is phenomenal. So shout out to you, Mason. Everybody. You've been a part of half the podcast now, and I would not want to share the mic with anyone else but you. So,
me too, brother.
Shout out to Mason.
Appreciate it.
Go buy some merch.
Shout out to Adam.
Assemblage Beverage.
Give us some revenue.
.com.
You know where to go.
Yep. And until next time, I'm Adam.
Until next time, I'm Mason.
Keep on blending, baby.
Blending. Yeah.
Yep. AssemblageBevco.com.
Peace.